I'm so annoyed. So I'm standing right here at 113 and Morningside is jogging, and I saw a police car and like a minivan parked right here, loading the saw horses, right, the barricades that were used for open streets. So I walked up. I should have filmed it, but I didn't. But I was like, hey, so there was a woman who was not in uniform and these two officers in uniform. I said, hey, are you loading these up to set up the open streets that are here along Morningside Avenue and 113th going up to 116th and then 117th Street from Morningside over to 5th Avenue? I said, no, we're moving them somewhere else. This whole area is not. I said, oh, are these for open streets? The officer goes, oh, the streets are open. Like being sarcastic. I was like, no, I mean open streets, like no car traffic. He goes, no, that's not, whatever, that's not our, that's not what these are for. So I said, where are you sending them? He wouldn't answer. So the woman answered. Her name is Officer Urena, Urena. She's the community affairs officer for the 26th precinct. I said, oh, okay. So where are you taking it? She said, oh, we have an event up at 125th Street. I said, okay. But why are these streets not open? This is all part of the DOT open streets plan. What's going on? She said, oh, they weren't being used. The open streets weren't being used, so we shut it all down. I said, what do you mean you shut it all down? And what do you mean it's not being used? She's like, well, they were set up and nobody was really using them. So if there's no use, then the precinct apparently has the ability to just shut the whole thing down. Nobody's around. The ability to just shut the whole program down. I said, that doesn't really make sense. I spoke directly with the DOT, director of this program. And she said, oh, you have to talk to the officers. They're the ones responsible for setting up the barricades. And I said, yeah. So I emailed your precinct. I said this to the officer nicely. I was like, I emailed you guys a bunch of times. I called the community affairs. I left you a message. And I said, it hasn't been set up in, she said, oh, it was set up and it just hasn't been used. I said, what are you talking about? I was here. The day it was set up was like May 26th. The first day it was set up, there were kids and parents and everything. I walked it. I filmed it. The second day, like May 27th and 28th, it was basically not even set up those days. I remember those days because I was so disappointed and I wrote tweets about it with video and filming. She said, oh, well, it was definitely set up because we actually had it all set up for June 19th, Juneteenth. I wasn't here, but she said, oh, it was set up for that whole week. I'm like, okay. So for a week, open streets was set up, but the rest of it you didn't? I was like, how do you guys have the ability to just shut the program down? Does the DOT know about this? Does the mayor know about this? Who's given approval that you can just decide that open streets is not a thing? I'm not arguing one way or the other, but it does seem odd that a DOT plan that the mayor set up and keeps saying, we're going to hit 100 miles can just be shut down by the local precinct who's responsible for upholding it. She said, no, we actually can do that. We can shut things down if we don't see much usage. I said, well, that's news to me. I'll check in with Kimberly Rancourt, who's the director of this program for the DOT, who works directly under the commissioner, Ed Pinker. I said, I talked to her. She definitely did not say that, but I guess I'll check in and ask. So she said, yeah, and if this officer was very nice. She was like, well, if you find out that, people want it or whatever, we could set it back up again. We could set these barricades up. And I walked away and I'm like, this is New York, man. Like this is why things are so dysfunctional. The mayor drags his feet on a program for weeks and weeks, and in the height of the pandemic. The city council unanimously approves this open streets plan in May, right? And then it's all outsourced. It's effectively outsourced to the local precincts who already do not really give a shit about these kinds of things. And then they do a piss poor job of actually setting up the barricades, because I looked at them. I said, and I told this to the woman, I was like, the officer, I said, when they were set up, there were cars driving through. They were not going 5 miles an hour. So when you say nobody was using them, it's because you set them up like through streets. The barricades didn't cut across at all. They were very poorly set up. It wasn't an inviting area at all. What parent would let their child bike around here? I don't know if you've been up in this neighborhood, but you got this kind of stuff, this kind of traffic in the middle of the street. So unless this is completely empty of cars, no parent would ever let their child just bike around in the middle of the street. That's a death wish. It's insane. So when you set things up for failure and then they fail, and then you say, look, it failed, so I guess it didn't work, that's just really pathetic. And I'm sad that this happened. And it's just, I don't know, it's just like another example of the dysfunction of this city and kind of the way that we allocate space. It's like, oh, let's get rid of the open streets program. We can just decide to do that in any area. Meanwhile, the DOT's website still has these streets marked as open streets. The mayor still talks about those miles. They include them in the numbers. So nobody got the notice that these are no longer open streets. I didn't realize that was a thing. Streets Blog has been doing stories about this. So nobody actually had that as the official word that a precinct could just shut this whole program down in their precinct if they feel like it. But I think the main point is you do a pretty sad program. You do it in a pathetic way. You drag your feet the whole time. And then when it doesn't pan out and it sucks, then you say, oh, well, nobody was using it. So there you go. I saw people using this space. I saw children out. Once there was a critical mass of people and there were no cars, it was working. So I don't know. I'm really frustrated by this. So that was that's the community affairs officer, Urena, Urena. I'm going to message her. She said, oh, I didn't get any emails or anything. I said, I've been filming this stuff. I tweeted about it. I emailed your NCOs. Those are the neighborhood coordinating officers who sort of patrol like smaller square blocks. And they're responsible for these kinds of projects, I think. And I emailed all of them. Nobody responded. I emailed a bunch of officers. Nobody responded. Gail Brewer was the only one that responded to my email. She said she would come up. She can't wait for the open streets. So anyway, I just needed to vent about this. I'm so pissed off. It's such a pathetic situation. These open streets are going to fail. 3/4 of them are going to fail. The ones that don't have massive community involvement, and like it's up to me and my family to like be out there every day, like using the street, like sitting in the middle of the street, that's usage. But like a car coming through every like 5 minutes, that's what you want. It's just pathetic. We can't even shut down a couple of small side streets here, let alone do any big ambitious projects in this city that would allocate space for pedestrians, for cyclists, make it safer for everybody, particularly families, the elderly, children, you name it. So anyway, that's it. That's all I got.